Hey everybody, it is Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and man, did we get a bunch of news yesterday. One big story that's very pro-gun and one that's very anti-gun. But, like I try to tell you guys in many of my videos in the past, and sometimes when I say this you guys laugh at me, and some people agree and some people disagree, but I'm going to say it right now. It doesn't matter if this is a pro-gun story or an anti-gun story. You all need to calm the F down because you guys don't put things in perspective, okay? So we had two things that happened yesterday. We had first, I guess, the Biden administration created this Department of or Committee on Gun Violence Prevention. That's going to be under the DOJ and under the executive branch. And a bunch of YouTubers are calling this, and even the channels that I like, that I don't really think get too exaggerated with their claims, or even calling this the Ministry of Disarmament. Okay, so that's the negative thing. And then the positive thing was Judge Roger Benitez out in the Southern District of California submitted his ruling on the magazine limit ban in California and ruled it unconstitutional. Okay, so a huge win, right? Big news, groundbreaking, all that kind of stuff you see on the other channels. Now, I saw exaggerated claims on both sides, and I think a complete misunderstanding of what's going on, okay? So I want to break this down and tell you why both of these stories, one anti-gun, one pro-gun, are not what they seem, and the truth lies in the middle, and you all need to calm the F down, okay? Let's talk about the anti-gun one first and give you guys some good news, okay? So this committee on gun violence prevention, or whatever they're calling it, that some other YouTubers are calling the Ministry of Disarmament. Okay, it's just an advisory council. Okay, so I understand why some people are upset about it, and essentially all it's going to do is waste government funds. We're going to put people on the payroll, okay, that are going to claim to do research, and they're going to advise the president on what they can do. Okay, so I can save the government literally millions of dollars because we already know this committee is going to get funding of millions of dollars to do research. And then literally 6 months later, they're going to come back to the president and say, we recommend magazine capacity limits and assault weapons bans and universal background checks and a national registry and a licensing scheme. We already know what they're going to say and what they're going to advocate for. But this committee has no actual power. They can't dictate anything, okay? They're not over any executive agencies. All they are is really an advisory council. That's all they are. And they're not going to say anything that the president doesn't already want to do, or that disarmament people don't already want to do. The only reason they create this is to have some type of what appears to be government legitimacy in their quote-unquote research. But it's funny, like, honestly, how much money do they have to spend on research? It's a joke, okay? So everyone's panicking and going, oh my God, this is like the former Soviet Union, blah, blah, blah. Come on. Every president creates a czar of something. You remember we had like a czar of, oil or whatever, and that just goes away. It's just a special little department, and once the next president comes in or whatever the next big thing is, it just goes away, okay? So this thing everyone's calling the Committee on Disarmament, it's just something that people are trying to get you to be upset about. In reality, nothing's going to happen, okay? As I said, they're going to advocate for the same things that they already advocate for now. They're going to waste government money, okay? They're going to waste government money. In fact, all of the taxes you ever pay in your entire life, okay, will not even come close to the amount of money that this committee is going to spend on research to say the same thing we already know they're going to say, okay? It's a joke. It's not going to do anything. They can propose whatever they want. They'll write paper, but then nothing will happen, okay? They have no power. It's just an advisory council. So it's essentially people that already advise the president getting together as a committee, advising the president to do the same thing they already advise him to do now, okay? There's nothing to panic about. It's just a waste. Because we all know that here in the United States, if you want to end the gun violence epidemic, okay, You have to change the culture. This is not going to be ended by gun laws because they refuse, the anti-gunners refuse to look at the true cause of gun crime in the United States, right? I mean, I've heard the statistic that if you take out the 5 biggest cities in the United States, that when it comes to gun violence, the United States ranks as one of the lowest countries in the world, even though we have so many guns. Why? Because in the inner city, you have gangs and drugs, okay? And you have a culture in the inner city of violence. That's what you have. You have art and music that glorifies violence, glorifies immorality, okay, that doesn't value life, okay? But, for example, here, I live in a town called Frisco here in North Texas. And we're surrounded by a number of towns like Prosper and Plano. And I know that for a while, I want to say Frisco was on the list, but Prosper was higher on the list of guns per capita, okay? Now, I think, in fact, for one time, Prosper had the most guns per capita in the United States. No, sorry, not Prosper, Plano had the most guns per capita in the United States. I don't know if that's the case right now. But when you look at the violent crime rate in this area, it's extremely low. In fact, I can tell you between my personal collection of firearms, the collections of firearms of people I know that live on my street, the collection of firearms of people that lend guns to my channel, we easily have an arsenal that's probably bigger and outguns the Frisco Police Department and the Plano Police Department, okay? Definitely the Prosper Police Department. They're a smaller town. But guess what? There's no violence. If we ever have a crime, like a murder here, it's very, very rare. Very rare, and it makes big news because it's that rare. But we have all these guns because we don't have a culture of violence. We live in a area that you don't have as many single-parent households. There's not a bunch of gang crime. I mean, I'm sure there are gangs, and I know for a fact that there's probably people in this town that are addicted and abuse drugs, okay? So I'm not saying it's perfect or it doesn't happen. But what I'm saying, though, is that the general culture of this area does not tolerate that. That is not a acceptable norm. And when those things happen, they get taken care of. You know, if we see somebody on our streets that's homeless, obviously intoxicated on something, they get excised from that situation, right? They'll get arrested if it's public intoxication. We have ordinances against, sleeping on the sidewalk and so forth, and the police will arrest them and take them someplace and hopefully get them help, okay? But we have that here. We don't tolerate that here. So we don't have that issue. But then you have these big cities where violence is glorified. It's said in art and music, rap music and so forth. It's told to these kids that that's the way to become rich and famous, right? Is to be a member of a gang, to sell drugs, to defund the police. Now, listen, I'm not a huge fan of the police, okay? Because I've seen where some police overstep their bounds, but there are good people in law enforcement, okay? And they are a necessary aspect to society to have law and order, right? We all agree that we should live in a civil society, okay? And police are part of that. But you have police that, because of rules and regulations, do not enforce things, are told not to enforce things. You have people that do not respect authority. I mean, for example, if I get pulled over, and I disagree, if I know I was not speeding, but the cop is like, you're speeding, blah, blah, blah. When the time to argue that is? It's in the court, not with the police officer, okay? I can be upset, I can be mad, I can feel it's unjust, but I'm going to respect the officer's authority in the moment, right? Okay? I can be polite, I can be kind, I can voice my opposition, but I'm not going to be belligerent, okay? They have control of the situation, and me being upset about it and saying stuff and, going off the rails isn't going to help my situation in the moment, okay? So I have a respect for authority, okay? Doesn't mean I have to like it or I'm not going to fight it in court later, but that's the time and place to do it. But you have people that do not respect authority, even if it's legitimate authority, okay? Now, there are some authorities you should not respect. If it's an unconstitutional order or, you guys know what I'm talking about, okay? But if it's a legitimate authority, okay, you have people that do not respect that. You have people that openly commit violence. You have single-parent households where life is not treasured. As far as we know in the universe, we're the only life that exists. Now, personally, I don't believe that we're alone. The universe is vastly too big. So personally, I believe that there's life out there. And my solution to the Fermi paradox is wrong place, wrong time, okay? We're just looking at the wrong place, the wrong way, at the wrong time, okay? The distances are too vast and time is too big. But I believe it's out there. But as far as we can tell right now, we're alone. And that means life is special, okay? Life is extremely special. And we have a culture now that doesn't value life. So we have people in the inner cities that will kill each other over trivial things, people that glorify violence. They used firearms to commit these acts of violence, but the firearms don't cause the problem. The culture causes the problem. So this committee on committee on disarmament, everyone's calling it, is not actually going to address any of the issues, okay? They're not going to do anything because they're going to try to approach it from just a gun-related thing, and they can't do anything from a cultural thing because that would be considered racist or whatever, But I'm telling you, if we had strong families, now not everybody's going to get along, not everyone's going to stay together, but if we generally had a culture that emphasized two-parent households, a father and a mother, and fathers were more involved in their children's lives. One of the blessings of my life is being a dad, and I never knew it. When I was younger, I never thought I would have kids, and I don't have any biological kids, but I have 4 stepsons. They're all in college now. And when I married my wife, they were like 14 and 15 years old. And being a dad has been a true blessing. It has been a true blessing in my life. And I hope that I instill good values and good character in them. And they're turning out to be pretty darn good young men. And I'm very proud of them. It has been just an amazing journey. And I don't understand why other men don't want to have that in their life. But that's the culture in these places. So until this, if this committee came out with recommendations on changing the culture and saying, well, we need to have incentives for strong nuclear families, and we need to have incentives for education instead of, just as ban guns, well, then nothing's going to happen. But anyway, I know this is kind of long in this beginning part, but don't worry about this committee on disarmament. It's not going to happen, okay? Or it's not going to do anything, okay? So everyone yesterday panicking, making videos with it looks like the USSR flag and the hammer and sickle crap. Nothing's going to happen. So just calm the F down on that one. Okay, now let's talk about the pro-gun news, and then let's, temper your expectations, okay? So, yesterday in California, huge breaking news. And finally, the armed scholar, which was so funny because when I saw his video, he was filming his video and he was out of breath. He's like, I just ran to the studio when I found this out. I'm like, dude, listen, I am not a paradigm of health, okay? I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to lose some weight. I've reduced my soda intake, okay? I can lose 20 pounds, okay? I totally get it, okay? And I'm working towards that, okay? But dude, you didn't have to run, and you don't have to be out of breath. You can turn on the camera and start filming after you've caught your breath. It looks a little bit silly when you're like, oh, I just got in here, and Judge Benitez, it's amazing breaking news, overturned California's magazine ban. Like, dude, calm down, just calm down. But finally, his thumbnail that said like great news or breaking news was actually true. But anyway, everyone is like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, so now let's just calm the F down and put this in perspective. And what does this mean? Okay, so this is a ruling that we all knew was going to come because we all know how Judge Benitez ruled in the past. He already overturned this. So he put a 10-day injunction on this, on the enforcement, supposedly to give the government of California time to do two things. Number one, inform all of law enforcement how to proceed, how not to enforce this magazine ban, but also to give the government and the Attorney General time to appeal to the next level. Okay? Now, we already know they're going to appeal to the next level. Okay? So he's a district judge. They're going to appeal to the Ninth Circuit. Okay? So what's going to happen? And I hate to break the news to you. Okay? I hate to break the news to you. I mean, it is good news. It is good news, and I'm so happy. But here's what's going to happen, okay? It's why everyone has to calm the F down. They're going to appeal to the Ninth Circuit, okay? Which means it's going to go to a 3-judge panel. Now, what this 3-judge panel is going to do, they have options. They can either say, we're not going to hear it, Benitez ruled appropriately, and it can go into effect, okay? That's option 1. What most likely is going to happen, because remember, all these judges want to be appointed to higher judgeships, okay? Each one of these judges wants to sit on the Supreme Court. And they all look at the future and realize that most likely there's going to be more Democrat presidents in the future than Republicans, okay? So if they rule a certain way, there's a high probability they're going to get looked at for a promotion. So this 3-judge panel is most likely going to say this. Here's my prediction. And remember, I know everything. Everyone hates it when I say this. But in 10 days when this happens, you can come back to this video, and I might even reference this video, they're going to allow it to be appealed. They're going to hear it. And they're going to say that we are going to allow the injunction, or we're going to create the injunction to stay in place until we can hear this case. And they're going to set the case date for like a year and a half from now, because the state is going to say, we need more time to do discovery, okay, which is them looking into the past, trying to find laws, trying to find precedent. And of course, they're going to find nothing that they don't already have. But they're going to set it, they're going to give them a year to do that, okay? So for that year to year and a half, the injunction will be in place and and the magazine ban will be enforced. Then they'll have the hearing. Okay? And then this 3-judge panel is going to take their sweet time, 6 months to a year, to write their opinion. Okay? So expect this next level to be 2 years out. So what is it now? 2023 will be 2025. At that point, most likely, because it's a 3-judge panel and the Ninth Circuit is so liberal, they're going to overturn Judge Benitez's ruling. And they're going to say that the magazine ban is constitutional, and they're going to have wordplay that goes against the Supreme Court, goes blatantly. They're going to use a different methodology. They're going to ignore it completely because they just want to put their middle finger up to the Supreme Court. But then the people that are fighting the magazine ban are going to appeal to the Ninth Circuit en banc, which means a much larger group of judges. And so what's going to happen is it's going to be accepted to go to en banc, because all these judges need to be part of some ruling to hopefully get a promotion. Then they're going to set their date out another year to allow the state and the whatever to do more discovery. So now we're looking at 2026, 2027, when they're going to hear the case. They'll hear the case, and then they're going to essentially have more fancy wordplay. They're going to find some law where they're like, well, you know, back in 1562 in a small town in England, which is part of the American tradition because that's when the Constitution was written, or based off of those laws in the 1700s. This was the 1500s. They were part of English common law. There was a town in England that banned the carrying of 2 knives at once. Therefore, that means that we can ban high-capacity magazines because you carry more than a certain number of bullets. And they're going to have some type of weird legal reasoning for that. They're going to find some weird law in some small village in the middle of nowhere, England, in the 1500s, and say, this allows magazine bans to be constitutional. And then they'll wait to 6 months to a year to release that ruling. So it'll be 2028 before we get to that point. And at that point, then whatever happens will be appealed to the Supreme Court. Now, that's a long time from now, and we have a few conservative justices, like Justice Thomas, who unfortunately is up there in age, who might not be there anymore. And most likely, I don't think we're going to have a Republican president after the next election cycle. So he will probably be replaced by a liberal justice, and a very liberal justice at that. And of course, they're going to want to try to overturn that. So then it has to go before the Supreme Court, and they can either accept or reject it. So I don't see this thing being resolved until 2029 or 2030. Okay? I know, it sounds crazy, but that's the way they do it. They slow walk this on purpose. So all of you people that think you're going to be able to buy standard capacity magazines in California in 10 days, it's not going to happen. Okay? You still have to wait probably another 7 years. If we win. But most likely, even though the clear reading of Bruin says this is unconstitutional, they're still going to find, as I said, that one log. As I said, you have to find history and tradition. I said they're going to find that one town, one municipality from the 1400s or the 1500s in England post-Magna Carta where they ban the carrying of 2 knives, or you can't carry a knife and something else. And that's going to be ruled as justification for banning high-capacity magazines in the modern era. And they're going to have this clever wordplay, and these justices or these judges are going to go to these cocktail parties. They're going to smile and be like, we're so smart, we beat Justice Thomas. And then they just wait for the next president to get elected, and then they're going to, of course, be looked at for appointments to higher circuits, higher judgeships, and maybe even the Supreme Court, because they're going to be like, listen, you did our work for us back then, we're going to reward you. So that's what's going to happen. So negative, or the anti-gun side, calm the F down. This stupid committee on gun violence prevention, or as many YouTubers are calling it, the committee on disarmament, is a nothing burger. Nothing's going to happen. I've already saved the government millions of dollars, okay? I already know what they're going to recommend, okay? They're already going to do these studies, and they're going to say, we need to ban this, ban that, ban this, okay? That's all they're going to do, okay? We need, universal registration, blah, 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 the entire litany of crap. And then on the pro-gun side, for those of you that are all celebrating and all high-fiving, woo, we won this, it ain't going anywhere right now, okay? We already know it's going to be appealed. It's going to be appealed again after that. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, and it's going to take years. And the court is intentionally going to put these court dates out as far as they can. The state is going to ask these court dates to be as far as they can with the injunctions in place. That's what's going to happen, okay? And the courts are going to defy the Supreme Court, because that's what the state legislatures in these states are doing, and that's what these circuits that are very liberal are doing. They want to defy the Supreme Court, and because they can't be held accountable, they're going to do it. I mean, if you have a judge which rules against the Supreme Court precedent, it's not like they get impeached or removed or anything like that. They're not going to. You really think the U.S. Senate is going to hold an impeachment on an anti-gun judge because they defy the Supreme Court? You ain't going to get 66 votes to impeach a judge. It's not going to happen. So they have job security for their whole life. So nothing's going to happen. There's no repercussions. Okay? So there you go. I guess that's all I wanted to say. So calm the F down. Just calm down. All this stuff, stop panicking. Stop being emotional about this. Every week it's something different. It's Matt Hoover, panic. It's the bump stock thing, panic. Whatever. Everything is panic, panic, panic. And whether it's good news or bad news, the truth and actually what is going to happen lies somewhere in the middle, okay? It's like the pistol brace rule. Everybody was like, we're all felons overnight. They're going to come and raid everyone's houses and kill everyone's dog. Well, that's not happened, okay? But when you go to the gun store, you can't buy a pistol with a pistol brace anymore, okay? So that's bad, but no dogs have been killed. No one's been arrested. There's been no mass enforcement. Okay, so it wasn't the end of the world, but it wasn't a nothing burger. It lied in between, right? And that's what all these things are. You need to just look at these from a rational perspective, look at history, and understand how the process works. So there you go. I know this is a long video. I probably bored some of you guys, but I wanted to get this out there. So my best advice to you, if it's pro-gun news or anti-gun news, before you go to your heart and panic, calm the F down. So, as always, thanks for watching.